Hi, I'm Steven. Look at this. This CONTAX ZEISS Vario-Sonnar 28 to 85 mm f 3.3 to 4, the zoom lens, very smooth. The CONTAX ZEISS lens was made by CONTAX ZEISS for the CONTAX SLR camera, which was CY mounted. What is the CY mounted? Actually, the CY means the CONTAX Yashica. So people usually call these lenses CONTAX ZEISS, which with outstanding build quality, and they all have great images. Some of the CONTAX ZEISS lens design, which was directly derived from the ZEISS Super Speed Cine Lenses series. I found this YouTube channel, Media Division. They have series compared ZEISS Super Speed Cine Lenses, the 50mm T1.5 with the CONTAX ZEISS 50mm f1.4 lens. And the result is almost hard to tell the difference between the two lenses. That's a very good video. So the CONTAX ZEISS have an early AE version and a later MM version. Both AE and the MM version, they all have produced in Germany and produced in Japan. For example, AEG and the MMG were made in Germany, and the AEJ and the MMJ were made in Japan. Of course, the later MM version more suitable for the current digital camera, I think. There are almost no discernible difference between the German and the Japanese products. They should be identical. You know, that many people, they always believe the German products. Someone said that the AEG or MMG version of the CONTAX ZEISS lens is really true ZEISS lenses. But I think, I don't believe that. I remember 15 years ago, for the work reason, we hired a portrait photographer working for us to shoot a famous sports goal in Beijing. That photographer was used a CONTAX 645 medium format camera and a few ZEISS lenses. When chatting, I asked him, why are you using the CONTAX camera? Obviously, the Mamiya camera for cruise is more conveniently. And he replied, using German brand lenses and Switzerland flashlighter, he will get a more higher shooting pay price from the client. Yes, I fully understand that. From 1980s to 1990s, the CONTAX ZEISS also made some zoom lenses for the CONTAX 35mm SLR camera. Among them, the famous 35 to 135mm Vario-Sonnar zoom lens. According to rumor, the ZEISS engineers was claimed that lens is the best zoom lenses they ever made. Just a rumor. This 28 to 85 is another very good zoom lens. The 28 to 85 we call it the standard focal lens, like 24 to 70, but I always think the 70 is not enough. But this CONTAX ZEISS can reach the 85. It only have MMJ version, which was only made in Japan. ZEISS was claimed that this is so good, in fact, that it can be readily compared to the lenses with fixed focal length, and this is not a rumor. So first, the price. This CONTAX Vario-Sonnar 28 to 85 f 3.3 to 4 zoom lens was launched in 1980s. In 2005, the price was $900 US. it was expensive at the time. But now you can buy it for maybe $200 compared to another vintage lenses like Nikon, Canon, or Contax. These lenses price cannot be say cheaper, but Zeiss is the Zeiss. Also, some Contax Zeiss lenses are still very expensive now. My friend, he is doing a business of the second-hand camera. A few years ago at a classic camera show in Tokyo, I saw him bought two Contax Zeiss 55mm f1.2 lens for $5,000 for each one. I was shocked by the price, because that price was close to the Leica Noctilux, the 50mm f1 lens. I don't know the original price of the 55mm f1.2 lens. That's a mystery. So this Contax Zeiss lens already 30 years old. And how did the 30 years old lens perform? So in this video, let's series compare it to the modern zoom lens, Tamron 28 to 75mm f2.8 lens, which is now shooting this video on the camera. And because they have the similar focal length and also the same price. First, look at this 28 to 85mm lens. It is one-touch zoom lens, means the same ring is used for zooming and focusing. The 85mm in shortest state and 28mm when it extended to the longest after being pushed out. It looks almost the same size in this way, but if you put the Contax Zeiss on mirrorless camera, you must need an adapter. With this adapter, the Contax will become more longer. The weight. Tamron is 550 grams. The Contax is 735 grams, but if with the adapter, the Contax will about 800 grams. That's very heavy. It can be seen that the weight of the Contax lens is a big count because it is made of all metal. Now the filter size. Tamron is 67mm. The Contax is 82mm. The Contax with this original lens hood like this. But I think this lens hood almost useless. Maybe in 1980s people doesn't found the lens hood can be made like this, and could only design the lens hood based on the 28mm focal length angular field. Tamron is a dual ring zoom lens. The Contax is a single ring, and the focus ring will not stop when the lens is facing up or down at an angle over than 45 degrees. Pushing, pulling, and turning the focus ring feels very smooth. The focus stroke is 180 degrees. And the closest focusing distance is the same at 28 and 85, both of which are 60 centimeters. Of course, the modern Tamron is 19 centimeters at 28 and 39 centimeters and 75. It is incomparable to the lens of 30 years ago. The Contax, the aperture is f3.3 to 4. What kind of aperture is f3.3? Actually, from the f2.8 to f4 is one stop. The f3.3 is 1/3 stop, slowed down from the f2.8, and the 28mm end, the wide aperture is f3.3, and when zoom into 85mm, even if it is set at f3.3, the actual amount of light is equivalent, while slow to f4, with a 0.7 stop aperture difference. And when you focus, it turns the front threads. This could be trouble if you using a variable ND or PL filter. The Tamron 28 to 75mm has a constant aperture of f2.8 with excellent autofocus function. So in sample photo test, I slightly changed the shutter speed to ensure the consistent exposure. As you can see, when wide open, the CONTAX at 85mm is slightly sharper and contrast than the Tamron at 75mm. After the aperture is closed to the f5.6, Tamron's sharpness and contrast are basically close to the CONTAX's performance. At the 28mm end, both lenses have barrel distortion. And the CONTAX ZEISS has no obviously advantages. The sharpness is almost the same. The Tamron's purple fringings is different from CONTAX ZEISS. CONTAX has a slightly purple fringing at the edge of white cloud and blue sky at 28mm in all aperture, while the Tamron is very clean. Both lenses have obviously vignetting when wide open, and the CONTAX is more obvious. Looking at the details, the middle level of CONTAX is slightly darker than the Tamron's. It looks like it adds some gray in color. This feature also can be seen on vintage Leica lenses. Maybe this is the reason of have 3D field perform that we usually talk about.